Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Interact podcast. My name is Josh Haynam, co-founder and CEO of Interact. Today, I'm joined by Lindsay, Bryan-Podvin. I forgot what title you wanted to go by. This is not unusual, so just breaking the ice right off the top here. I don't know if you're like this. This is totally derailing how we were going to start the interview, but I always forget things that I specifically remember that I'm going to remember. Are you
Yeah.
like that?
Yes, and that's why I almost always have a literal sticky note on my laptop. Or sometimes I'll have it pulled up on a notes app. Because you I find that we'll always forget something essential that we know, but if it isn't written down, that totally happens. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sure there's some psychological reason there, but anyways, this is how a lot of my interviews start out these days. but remind us what title you do like to go by, and tell us a little bit about your business, and then we'll get into your quizzes.
Of course. So I go by a financial therapist. And the reason that it can be so confusing, not just for you, Josh, but for a lot of people, is that there are a lot of other letters behind my name. I have an LMSW or a licensed master's in social work. I also have a trauma of money certification, a financial social work certification. So there's a lot there, but financial therapist is the most succinct and clearest. So the shortest way that I can describe what I do is that while financial planners or advisors or financial literacy educators help people with how to make a budget, my job as a financial therapist is to help people with the why. Why is it so hard to make a budget? How come it's so hard for me to talk to my partner about money? Why can't I stick with it? What are my actual goals? So less the how and more the emotional, psychological, and behavioral side of money.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, that's you know better than me, but that seems like the much bigger part of it. The
Mhm.
logistics is not so complicated. It's
Right,
the
right, exactly.
emotions of it.
Mhm.
So, how did you package all of that up? Because there's a lot there, and turn it into your two quizzes. And maybe you have more than the two, but I've seen the two that you have.
Yeah, so I have two quizzes that I've used Interact for. One is for individuals and it helps them understand what their financial archetype is. And that essentially shows some of the pros and cons of the way each of us interacts with money. And so people can figure out what kind of personality type they are when it comes to money. And then the other quiz that I have is if you are a team leader, you work in HR, you work in people or ops, a lot of people want to bring in financial well-being content to their employees, but they don't want to do another boring 401k lecture or show them how to download a budgeting app. They actually want something a little bit better or different, but they don't know exactly what it is. So the other quiz helps team leads figure out what their team is missing when it comes to financial wellness and suggest a potential topic or a way to kind of patch that hole. So I can go down a little bit more, but I'll pause there.
No, that's great. I was just going to ask you, like, at a very practical level, how those two quizzes fit into your business. And I know
Mm-hmm.
you have a podcast, you do a lot of like media, you're out in the world. Like, where in that whole process do these quizzes fit in as far as like getting people into your world and then eventually like becoming customers or clients?
I would say it kind of serves two functions. So the traditional function that I think a lot of people think of quizzes as is like a top of funnel lead, right? Kind of enticing somebody to join your world and help build that know, like, and trust factor, and that certainly is a part of it. But I find for me that by the time somebody's opting in to take one of these quizzes, whether it's for themselves or whether it's for their team, they're already a little bit warmed up to me and to my work. So maybe they follow me on Instagram or a colleague of theirs went through one of my workshops and they're curious about what it might look like to take that next step, whether that's learning about their money personality or whether that's figuring out what could be tweaked in financial wellness in their workplace. So for me, it does a little bit of both. Yes, it can be that lead gen, but I can't tell you the number of times I've had people, you mentioned press and media, mention to me, I'm a reporter and I took your quiz because I wanted to get a sense of how you talk to clients or what your style is or figuring out your approach. So sometimes it's that next level, and it isn't just somebody scrolling through trying to figure out, what type of jeans are you? Not that there's anything wrong with like wide leg or skinny leg jeans as like a fun little quiz. But I also find that the way that my quizzes are set up is that it isn't really surface level, right? By the time somebody takes a quiz, whether it is on a pop-up, I'm delivering value right away. So my unsubscribes from people who take the quizzes are also lower than somebody who, say, I don't know, wanted to download. I don't have any of these right now at the time of this recording, but like a kind of 5-page mini ebook or PDF, right? They're curious about themselves. And because I deliver value right away, they're already more engaged.
Yeah, I'm a fan of this picture that you're painting because it's like you have an opportunity to have a emulated conversation or a scripted conversation with somebody in the quiz. They can get to know you a little bit. They can kind of get to know your style. And as a result of that, not only is it like people that have maybe been following you for a while, it's like a conversion point for them, but also somebody that's curious to know more about you can like kind of learn more about you very quickly, but also learn about themselves at the same time. So it's a cool kind of back and forth conversational thing. And especially today, I've been having this conversation, it feels like over and over again with AI, where you can kind of like put together a basic version of all this stuff.
Yes.
It's like, well, if somebody takes your quiz and they're talking to AI who created because AI made your quiz, then it's not going to work. It's not going to win people over, because that's kind of what a quiz can do. It's like win people over. It's like, oh, I like this conversation. This is a good conversation. I want to know more,
Yeah, exactly. And this is the second time literally today that AI has come up in how ubiquitous things seem online. And I'll raise my hand and say, I absolutely run things through AI and get, a second opinion or make sure that things are flowing in the way that I want them to flow. But it doesn't take long as humans for us to recognize pattern recognition. And so many things right now read and sound the same. Like you can spot something that was generated by AI and not tweaked at all. And it takes away that humanness that we are all craving, right? We don't, the reason people turn to a quiz that is written by a person who has a not just like a brand, but also a stance. They have a value, they have something that they are providing to somebody else versus just going back and forth in Chat GPT, is because even if the conversation isn't in real time, they're still getting an email from you or getting a quiz result from you. They are getting you. They're not getting a version of what a bot thinks a person like you should say in that scenario. And it's subtle, but our brains as humans are wired for human connection. So I think AI has so many benefits. And for people who are thinking about doing a quiz, just like dropping it into AI and copy and pasting, you'll see the results or lack thereof in your leads, right? People will take the quiz and be turned off, or then get your email that sounds like everybody else's email and unsubscribe.
That's a super good point about specifically what stood out to me is having a stance, because AI has been kind of getting shaded recently for just being overly positive. Like whatever you say is just going to reaffirm your idea. Or if you ask a question, it's going to give you 5 different options of answers. And this might be a psychological principle and maybe it's not, but I think that people need somebody to take a stance in order to move forward. Like if you're just getting a bunch of options, you ask a question, somebody gives you 5 options, you're just going to stay exactly where you are. Or if they just reaffirm whatever you think, you're going to stay where you are. And I don't think people like that. I think people want to feel progress.
Yeah. And the progress also builds from a psychological perspective. It increases self-esteem, it builds self-trust, it helps to create that resilience muscle that I think a lot of us are, it's slipping away. We don't face things and work through them and go, oh my gosh, I'm capable of completing that thing or doing that thing. So it's beneficial to treat your audience like capable humans.
Right. Yeah. Push
Yeah.
people a little bit,
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
you gotta move past some stuff because we are creatures of comfort. We
Yeah.
will seek what doesn't require change, but then also become unhappy because
Hmm.
like you don't want to just stay the same forever. And so
Hmm.
these are all the it's just funny we're talking about this and people are always asking me like, oh, how do you make a good quiz? And I'm like, well, this is kind of it. Like you have to get down to these levels of like,
Hmm.
what does it actually mean to be a human and have a conversation with
Hmm.
another human and push them a little bit, but not too much, and like
Yeah.
be able to speak to where they're at and show more of your personality through the way
Hmm.
that you talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all. Like I think that's super great stuff, and anybody listening should just like listen back to that, listen to what Lindsay was saying. um, I'm curious also about your marketing approach for your business
Yeah.
because it comes across as unique to me. Speaking of everything being the same, like just looking through the way that your primary, this could be wrong, but this is how it comes across on the internet. Primary seems like your podcast, secondary seems like a YouTube, but then you also do a lot of media. And is that correct? Like as far as the main places that you show up online?
Good question. I will answer that with a little more information. So the process helps to answer that question for you. So I
Hmm.
write a newsletter every single week, and then that newsletter is often turned in or repurposed into other content, whether it becomes
Oh.
a podcast, a YouTube video, or it's chopped up into Instagram reels, carousels, or LinkedIn posts. To be clear, not everybody listening to this needs to do all of those things. And because I'm a numbers person, I like to look at what's working and what's not and stop doing the things that aren't working. You'll notice I didn't say TikTok, not because I don't like to scroll on there and consume it, but for me personally, it wasn't a platform where when I posted there, I got a lot of traction.
Hmm.
So I just like to use it as a consumer to laugh at things. And
Hmm.
that's the way my algorithm is
Yeah.
trained. Um, so going back to your question, I would say that people often find me through one of those different avenues, whether it is Instagram, podcast, YouTube, and then they get to know me through my newsletter, which often is, they can take the quiz to get on that newsletter, or I just have a newsletter landing page to get on that newsletter. But that's usually how they start getting to know me and my work and my approach a little bit more.
Yeah, that's super cool to hear that laid out that way. You have like the three kind of, find me channels, and then you have
Hmm.
the get to know me channel, the newsletter. And then from there, it looks like it's primarily, well, it looks like from your website, again, you can tell me this is correct. It's like workshops at companies, and then
Hmm.
you also do have an offer for individuals who are interested, and then brand collaborations. Are those the three kind of like uh, do business with me if we're going through the three stages here?
You're catching me at an interesting time in my business where, yes, speaking and brand collaborations are absolutely there. And I'm moving away from individuals to
Hmm.
one to many work. So my
Hmm.
private practice is full, and I had a wait list for a while, but it quickly hit 300 people. And I realized that that was not sustainable or tenable. And I had the opportunity to partner with a university to take some of the things that I do in the therapy room and put them into a more interactive, educational, informational setting through a series of financial well-being workshops. And now I'm at the point where I'm getting ready to take that content, that program rather, and roll it out digitally. And my goal is to partner with HR programs, team orgs, operations, and things like that, so that employees can help their employers can help their employees feel better about money, knowing that it impacts their physical and mental health. It helps to reduce burnout, increase productivity and retention. It's just like a win-win-win all around. So as you are sharing that, I'm like, oh, I need to double check my website and make sure that I clean up that individuals And for all business owners listening, this is that little humbling moment of like, I got to double check on that.
No, well, I mean, hats off to you, because
Thanks.
whenever I interview or talk to people in January of every year since 2012, when we started working on Interact, the number one goal every single person has is, I want to switch from one to group. So congrats for making
Thank you.
that, because
Thank you.
so I'm actually curious, given that everybody asks me that question all the time, what was that like for you? What were the key milestones in making that transition? Was it easy? Was it hard? Like, how long was it? How long did it take?
So many good questions. And let's see. I think there were a few things happening where part of it is the way in which I positioned myself, and part of it was timing. So one, just rewinding back to the fact that I'm a social worker and I'm a mental health therapist, those two things, that training that they give us is like to really sink into the background, meaning like you don't put yourself out there. It is really about everyone else that you are doing work with, and you are meant to kind of be a blank slate. And so the way that that translates to other therapists and social workers who are marketing themselves, whether it's for coaching, consulting, books, workshops, what have you, is that consciously or not, a lot of us in that field shrink back, and we don't want to even put a picture of ourselves up. You'll see a lot of therapists who have like stacks of rocks as their profile photo, or maybe you'll see them like walking a dog, but it's from behind. You don't even see their face. So one thing that I think differentiated me from my peers was that I got comfortable being quote unquote cringe and uncomfortable and just putting myself out there. I started to be clear about what I did and what I didn't do in my practice. And so I think right away, I started my practice about 5 years ago in April of 2020, moving from a group practice. I think that when people are Googling things like therapist for money stress or help with financial anxiety, and they're finding a lot of generic web pages, I think one thing that just differentiated me right away was that going back to, again, having a stance and having a personality and showing a little bit more about me builds that trust right away compared to a stack of rocks or a generic, cartoon image. And then as far as how long it took, I will tell you that wasn't initially the goal starting out, but my practice filled so quickly. And this is where I think some of the timing and positioning unfortunately lined up in my benefit to my benefit, because I started my practice right when we went into lockdown. I had the advantage of already having about 30% of my caseload online. So I already was familiar with teletherapy platforms. It's hard for us to imagine in the year 2025 what we did before we had everything on Zoom style platforms. But back then, a lot of my colleagues were thinking, oh, we just have 2 weeks and then we'll see each other in person. Or they were anxious and weirded out about having therapy with their client on their laptop. So I already had a little bit of an advantage there. And then talk about financial stress, that was through the roof in April of 2020. So my practice filled really quickly. And I knew that I didn't want to do what is often typical of therapists in private practice who are full, which is hire somebody else or create an agency. I knew that wasn't the model I wanted. And so there was a lot of trial and error of how can I take this from a one-to-one to a one-to-many. I love facilitating workshops. That was fun then and continues to be fun now. I had a few cohorts. I learned that the cohorts weren't as enriching for me personally. So I was like, that might not be the path that I take. And now I'm moving on to trying to roll out this program in a different modality, right? I had been doing these financial wellness workshops or series rather in person, and now I'm trying to take it online. So more to come still. And now I rambled for a long time. So what did I miss?
That all connects in my brain because I've been in this space for so long, and what I'm hearing from that is that the real thing that set you apart was just being willing to show up online, being willing to put yourself as an individual on the internet, sharing your ideas and your thoughts. And like we've been talking about, like what's unique about your approach, and that really has paid huge dividends. And there's a timing component. There always is. It's like,
Sure.
luck comes to the people that try the hardest and keep going for a long time, right? Like, it's just kind of what it is. So it almost seems inevitable if you do show up for long enough in this kind of current environment that it will kind of eventually work out. But it is different than most people in your space. So for you, was that a natural thing where it's just like, I don't mind, like, being at the head of the class or giving a presentation or whatever? Or was it like a conscious choice of like, this is not my preference, but like, this is where the world's headed?
It was both.
Hmm.
At first, when I think about social media specifically, I didn't have social media personally. So it was literally kind of like a new world. And that anxiety of looking foolish or, people trolling you, or even worse, your post going nowhere was really scary. And a lot of my early posts were so generic and so basic. It would be like a quote. And over time, I was able to lead into the part of me that likes to be on stage more. And I use that use that phrase really literally. Like, I have always enjoyed doing presentations and facilitating workshops and answering questions on panels. And so I tried to take that energy to social media and to my website. But that was a bit of growing pains. And quite frankly, Josh continues to be growing pains because the algorithm changes all the time, and something that worked a few months ago no longer works. So you're always kind of learning and iterating as you go.
Yeah, no, I resonate with that a lot, and I think this line of questioning is for our customers, many of whom really did not make the switch, because like
Yeah.
there was a pretty fundamental switch, at least from my viewpoint, and I'm curious your
Mm-hmm.
perspective on this. Like around 2020, 2021, prior to that, there were a lot of brands that were fairly successful, not necessarily putting themselves out there, like a website, get traffic from Google, like convert
Mm-hmm.
that into email, and then have your business. You don't necessarily need to be like showing up on video all the time.
Right.
And now that's not really an option. I don't know anybody
Mm-hmm.
that's done that recently, and it's sad to me, like the actual sadness, because like I know a lot of those people and they just didn't come through. And then the ones that are having a lot of success right now are like 28 and under. Like they
Mm.
grew up with everything being on
Right.
social, and it's just like, ah, yeah, sure, I guess this is how you do marketing, whatever, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter. Like I'll apply my skill set there. But anybody 35 and up, I'd say, in this like coaching, mental health, basically any kind of online business where
Mm-hmm.
you're
Mm-hmm.
you're like trying to represent yourself, I almost close to 80% of them didn't make it through the last 5 years. And
Yeah.
so it's 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 a thing that like bums me out, because I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
these are great smart people, just
Mm-hmm.
the modality change. But then something that you said right at the end there, where it's like it is constantly changing,
Mm-hmm.
you have to learn to be adaptable, like roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably always been that way. There was just a
Yeah.
window in like the 2010s where it didn't change that much.
Right.
And then now it's back to probably what's more normal, which is
Mm-hmm.
like it does just change every 6 months.
Yeah, yeah. And as you were talking, I was thinking about a lot of like, coaches or therapists or creators who quote unquote haven't made it. But the thing that has also helped me to show up consistently, which to be clear does not mean I'm posting multiple times a day and showing up on every platform every day, is because it goes back to like my bigger values. And a part of the ethos or the mission of my business is to help people feel better about money so they can enjoy their lives and not have to track every penny. And I also know that my practice is full, and that right now I'm working on finding a way to reach more people, but in the interim, a 60-second video might not change somebody's life, but if it gives them that moment of, oh, I'm not the only person who has felt that way about money, it helps to create validation and normalizes the experience. So rather than when I find myself like getting really fatigued by all the platforms, one is that you heard me say I just don't go on the platforms that didn't happen to work for me, but the other thing is to think about it as service rather than this needs to create the ROI or, my business goes under. That's a lot of pressure to put on a post or a story.
Yeah, and like the fact that all the views are shown, this is like pulling from my own experience now.
Mm-hmm.
Like back when it was blogs, if something got like 5 views a month, but you know that like one of those people did end up wanting to work with you, you're
Right.
happy. But now that it's like all public and people are embarrassed if their video only has 10 views, it's like,
Mm.
yeah, but what if one of those people became a customer? Like that
Right.
it's
Exactly.
it's kind of detrimental to the service model because
Mm-hmm.
like sometimes not that many people have a question. Like
Right.
like
Right.
maybe there's 10
Mm-hmm.
people who have this
Mm-hmm.
question, but they really want to know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easier on your end to create a 60-second video than to have 10 30-minute conversations. Maybe you just don't have
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah.
But I think we almost need to reset our mindset around like
Mm-hmm.
what success looks like in terms of creating content, because everything is showing the views and the likes and the comments now,
Mm-hmm.
when like those are not necessarily indications of does somebody become a customer. Like that doesn't
Right.
show.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. How many viral videos have we seen that like it's great, they went viral, but there is no real outcome aside from the fact that, a bunch of people saw you eat a Twix or something. I don't know.
Yeah, right. And like
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes there's almost like a negative coefficient of
Mm-hmm.
like the more widely popular it is, the
Mm-hmm.
less likely anybody is to convert,
Yeah.
because anything that's widely popular, uh, that it's not going to necessarily be like a huge issue for anybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like cuz our issues are more unique, I would
Mm-hmm.
think, in general, and
Yeah.
like you pay to get rid of your unique issues. You don't necessarily pay to get rid of your broad issues that everyone has, like, oh, I want
Right.
to exercise more. It's like,
Right.
yeah, okay, you and everyone
Right.
else, right?
Exactly.
But then there's
Exactly.
like a very specific pain point you have around
Mm-hmm.
money, where
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I don't know, this thing happened when you were young, and then this thing happened when you were in college, and then this thing happened in your career,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're here. And then there's only 20 people that are like that, but those 20 people are like, what do I do?
Exactly. And if you have the thing that can help them answer that question, what do I do? Then that's what matters. And making sure that
Right.
they know how to find you also matters.
Yeah, I like that mindset that you portrayed there, of just like the service mindset of like, is this helpful to somebody either that I've talked to or
Mm-hmm.
that asked me a question or whatever? It's actually a question somebody has, or it's
Yeah.
like a unique perspective, even if it's not,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not answering a question, it's like, oh, this is a unique perspective that I heard from a customer, as long as you have permission to share it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
uh, or this is a unique thing that I learned based on my experience, and
Mm-hmm.
sharing those, that takes the edge off, I think, hopefully, for people
Yeah.
listening.
Yeah. I hope so too.
Yeah. Well, this is great. I usually keep these right around this like 30-minute mark. I'm like,
Perfect.
hopefully people go on walks and listen to these, because I'm a big proponent of going on walks.
Yes.
But where can people go, take your quizzes, learn more about you, check out your podcast, all that stuff?
Yes. So you can go to mindmoneybalance.com, and specifically to check out my quiz, they're both on the homepage, but to get there with one fewer quick click or scroll, you can go to mindmoneybalance.com/quiz. And I don't think I ever shared that. The name of my business is Mind Money Balance, and you can find me on anywhere that I mentioned today: Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, or on your
Perfect. Well, thanks so much, Lindsay. This was great.